difficult items, clean it off, and he carried.
Well, we'll see whether he can do it again as we hop into Champ Select. LGD have already banned away the Vladimir Malzahar once again. Syndra has gone on the side of RNG. We'll see whether they look towards something like the Gnar as the next ban, like they did the last time.
I mean, one pick, or at least the banning phase for the last couple teams. Yeah, see? I mean, the bans that we've seen against LGD have usually gone straight towards an Imp, right? We saw the Twitch bans.
Yeah, we saw Twitch Kog'Maw,
yeah,
like back-to-back bans.
Exactly, but it seems like this set, RNG is aiming straight for Wayless.
But they don't ban Corki.
I mean, I wouldn't either. I feel like Corki, you can go up against the Corki again, maybe not look to 1v1 him at every situation in the game, and you'll probably get a few fights your way.
Well, at the moment, LGD looking at the same first pick from game number 1. Remember, they were able to take down RNG with their first round of picks in the second game.
Yeah.
Of course, the Sivir and Rumble were still both there. So now LGD seeing whether they want to just go straight back into it, play the game out better, whether they have a different opportunity here.
I reckon RNG went into this thinking that Hecarim, or at least Rumble would be the priority pick, right? They thought they were going to take it away from LGD, and that would be the prime focus. LGD get the upper hand here. They're on blue side.
Yeah.
They could have gone for that Rumble, but they actually go straight for the Hecarim pick. It's been doing decently well for Intruder. So I guess RNG is able to just go straight for that Rumble, or perhaps they hold on to it.
Well, they are going to lock in the Rumble. The Braum's picked up as well, though, and that's the champion with the 100% win rate so far this series. A very big deal. It's now Intruder looking at the Thresh, and I love this. Go for a different option. Don't go into that Braum-Alistair matchup again, because that hasn't worked out for the Alistair, and I feel like adding the extra flexibility with the Thresh pick could be really important if Imp wants to play these hyper carries.
Yeah, and so I actually really do want to look for the Braum first pick from LGD, because now that RNG was able to snatch away the Braum, I think that's the main focal point. Last couple of games were decided by the fact that Braum was able to clean up team fights. Yep. Whenever skirmishes did arise, both teams really do want to look for those fights. Both of them. RNG wants to get the pressure first, then they look for the fights because they're advantageous. Or LGD will just take every fight that walks at them.
Damn right they will.
And so if you don't have the Braum, you lose a lot of pressure in those engages.
Well, at the moment, it is going to be the Shen locked in with the Thresh. So keeping that jungle top lane duo exactly the same, and POL the one to be mixing it up. Uzi and Xiaohu now thinking about what they want to take onto the Rift. We'll see whether it is going to be Xiaohu's pick saved until last, or whether he wants to pick away something like the Varus.
Yeah, I'd reckon they were just taunting Wayless at that point. They banned it away from him last time, and of course now that they have the Braum, he doesn't want to pick it into Braum. Or at least that's what I would expect. You don't know with Wayless, right?
Yeah.
So they're just taunting him, say, hey, you can't pick this. You got the Braum this time. But Thresh is a great pick. I really do want to highlight that because PYL with Thresh has been doing a lot for his team. So
oh yeah,
going straight back towards that, RNG do have to watch out, especially since they picked up the Ashe.
Yeah, so the mustache lane there towards the bottom side of the map. Imp thinking about taking the Sivir away from himself now. As POL hovering a Jhin. We'll see exactly what LGD do want to do. So we move to our third game of the series. It's all down to this. LGD need to win more games than Vici. And this is a huge one for them. If LGD can win this, then it's downhill from here, theoretically.
Yeah, I mean, Vici up in the next set, they're going up against OMG. Now, if LGD lose this, Vici, theoretically, they should have the upper hand in their matchup. If Vici ends up beating OMG, LGD loses to RNG, LGD's out.
Well, LGD switching away in the last second. It is going to be the Kog'Maw locked in here for Imp one more time. The Varus picked up by Wayless. Staying safe. Lots of poke potential out of the Living Artillery and the Piercing Arrow.
I'm not happy with this.
Not a fan?
Not a fan. So the issue is we highlighted Braum, right? Braum can block a lot of damage, a lot of poke, a lot of backline pressure. And if you're going Varus here, you're essentially saying, I don't really care what you can do with your Braum.
Yeah.
Kog'Maw just the same. So they really have to, as LGD do, have to outplay these team fights.
Well, we'll see whether they can actually do it. There is a lot of CC, Chains of Corruption now to add on to everything else. Corki wasn't bringing a whole lot in that regard. So they at least do have a lot of AoE lockdown. But you're right, it does seem very, very scary, especially now with that LeBlanc picked up by Xiaohu in the mid lane. One of his most comfortable champions. And as well, a champion that he can get around the map on, dive the backline on. He can pop the Kog'Maw if he's given the opportunity.
Yeah, so of course you have two really immobile champions in Waylesses and Imps. And so if you pick these champions, of course you're going to be afraid of Rumble. Of course you're going to be afraid of LeBlanc, Ashe, and especially Mata. So you have a team, you have to really outplay these fights, or just pick.
And also, PYL has to be an absolute god, because those lanterns are going to be so important.
Yeah.
The coaches are going to shake hands. Let's get into game number 3 between LGD and RNG. Thank you very much, Marin, and here we are, game number 3 between LGD and RNG. It all comes down to this. We'll see whether LGD are going to be able to follow their momentum from game 2, or whether RNG can get it all back now that they're once again on the red side. Only time will tell, and the Braum once again comfortably in the hands of Mata.
Yeah, and so past 2 games, we found ourselves a lane swap initiated by Royal. This game, I really want LGD to pick themselves standard lanes here. They need to get these standard lanes off.
Well, they do spot the ward going down. PWL and Intruder were looking for something sneaky, but Looper not going to fall for it. Backs coming in from both bottom lane members. You can see Wayless on your screen right now. Very vocal. Xiaohu, not so much.
It's a real tense moment for both teams here. This game does mean a lot for LGD, but it does have meaning for RNG.
Yeah, well, they need to try and secure their top spot. They do so by winning here. And, of course, it's all about momentum moving into the playoffs. They need to make sure that they're asserting their dominance, because they haven't looked like the formidable opponent that they were at the start of this season.
Exactly. And so we do see standard, hopefully. Yes. So what this means for LGD is that they can keep these lanes. Imp can get to that point a lot easier. They do need the lanes up and running because, of course, if you're going up against Ashe, you do not want Ashe rotating. You simply do not, because that is a pick potential waiting. Wayless needs to be ready for it. But, of course, now that they have standard lanes locked in,
this is what I love,
it works out for them.
What's happening right now, Wayless uses Fog of War and, like, low vision of his opponent to his advantage so often on Varus. He barely ever fires an arrow that you can see.
Yeah. Kind of have to do that unless if you're looking to push the lane. Otherwise, it's a fairly scary matchup for Wayless up against LeBlanc if he ever finds himself a little bit far too up the lane. That's why he doesn't want to push, because if LeBlanc can get the lane frozen up under her tower, then you're gonna get ready for that Rek'Sai duty on it.
Well, speaking of Rek'Sai, you can see MLXG actually setting himself up for a potential gank very early here. Wayless is actually moving up that side. Going to spot the tunnel, takes a Prey Seeker, and flat out doesn't care about it. Doesn't even bother throwing an arrow at the Rek'Sai because he wants to get the farm.
Yeah, and he's running a little low on mana. You do need to watch out if you're a Varus in that lane. Rek'Sai LeBlanc can demolish you. So it's great that he's starting to respect that. He doesn't look for that outright 1v1, even though he's probably comfortable in it. He's done it quite a bit in the series.
Yeah. Actually, Imp, you can see, taking some harassment underneath this turret, doing his best to farm up, but it's 19 to 10 in favor of Uzi. This Ashe is so oppressive. And these minions are just dying one after the other.
So it's the same point that we're seeing from RNG from the very first game to the very last, is that they really do value these pushing lanes. They always have shoving lanes, and it looks like Looper's going to have a little bit of a party here.
Yeah, he's got a bit of a horse situation that he's got to worry about. Nice rampages come in as he does get the E damage down, and Looper now has that health bar equalized. And look at this. Uzi and Mata just so incredibly aggressive on this bottom side.
Yeah.
Big bullies.
Exactly. So going back to the point was that RNG will always look to get priority and shove in lanes. It's going to be really difficult for LGD early. They're going to get punished a little bit. They're going to get harassed. But as long as they can get their first back in order, start to push back a little bit, get the CS secured, elongate the game as much as possible, it should work out for them.
Well, right now, Imp, we'll see whether he can get that Bioarcane Barrage in there to try and get himself some of these extra CS. Able to lock down that one with the help of PYL. Is Intruder as well. I mean, the map's open for him at the same time. MLXG's now on the bottom side, but I mean, it's not like we're cutting the map down the mid lane, forcing them to farm on either side. Things like this as Looper overheats. A lot of auto attack damage actually coming in as Marin actually may need to try and escape this one. Does have himself a level advantage. It's good. Taunt comes down, but the Flame Spitter still doing work. Nice shield. Blocks the rest of the damage, but Marin will now have to use his teleport to get back in.
Could have turned out really poorly for Marin. It's great that he did Shadow Dash away because Looper was overheated, which is to his advantage because if he does look for those auto attacks, can really do a lot of work on Shen. So Shen had to back away completely.
Right, now going to be able to pick up this full wave of farm. Very happy about that one as well. Grabs himself the shield. Overheat comes in once again for Looper, but Marin happily able to smack these minions down underneath the turret.
Yeah, look at the amount of vision, but at the same time, the tunnels that we see here in this jungle. The tunnels themselves feel a little bit like miniature wards because Hecarim does need to clear that. And if he does end up clearing these tunnels, it does show his position. So Hecarim really getting focused down right now. And he's able, they're able to do it simply because you have these waves getting shoved in constantly.
Yeah, well, he does at least clear out that pink ward. MLXG now looking for a gank. Equalizer dodged out of the way up there by Marin. He's looking for the taunt, but gets flashed on. Looper still tanking it. First blood goes to Marin. Will it be a double kill as MLXG tries to get out? And Marin says, nope, you ain't diving me.
I'm surprised they even went for that. The moment you lose out on that ulti, the Rumble Equalizer not hitting, you don't have the damage for it. But they went for it anyways, and especially since you're a Shen, able to dodge out for about 2 seconds flat, of course you're going to live.
Yeah. Well, actually, Wayless throws down the ultimate here in the mid lane. Xiaohu has to go back to the distortion. Mata tanks up a tower shot. Imp has low mana, and Mata has to dash to a minion. He's taken a lot of damage, though.
Level 5 Kog'Maw. If he was just one level up, could definitely finish off that kill.
Yeah. Or if he died, might be able to finish off the kill. The Cathian surprise, man. You cannot underestimate it.
That's true. Actually, you probably
Maybe
can.
not a good reason to die, though.
On top of that, Braum can just leap away from you, so that's something you don't want to look to do. I mean, you can try.
Well, Xiaohu takes just the tip of the arrow from Varus. We're going to clear out the minion wave. Does so with the Mimic. Wayless now has his turn to clear these minions from the game. Will be 1 CS in the lead after this wave is cleared up. So everything going fine. As Arrow connects onto Imp, he does still have the flash. Actually turning this one around. The heal comes in. Marin looking for the Shadow Dash. Heal comes out of Uzi, but there's the Shadow Dash. Doesn't flash after it, and they get the flash out of Uzi.
They really needed to get the flash out. They needed to get something because that pick from Uzi was really well placed. Honestly, able to get Shen out away from his lane. It's going to make Shen's laning phase a lot harder now.
Yeah, actually has to wander the whole length of the map in order to get back up to Looper. Looper looking for this first turret. And Shen's still half the map away.
Yep, so that was really costly for LGD. On top of that, Shen ulti on cooldown now. So any pressure that they could have exuded, not a possibility.
But Intruder at least able to get some spare time. Grabs himself his red buff. Pings go out. MLXG actually looking for this one. Both have level 6. Just continues to get vision in. Xiaohu now
LGD
in tow.
need to back away.
Yeah. Imp and POL in a lot of potential trouble. Chain lands onto the Krug, which is something that Intruder would be happy about. And he does manage to secure his camp.
So LGD right now, they're in a position where they're looking to actively scale, but they lose a lot of pressure on in this game. Intruder's constantly getting invaded on. Sure, he's even in CS. Thank God for that. He's in a position where he's not getting completely outpaced. Oh, gets dodged out. But at the end of the day, LeBlanc is able to look to rotate. Sure, they didn't get anything off of it, but RNG right now are in a powerful position.
Well, Uzi actually looking for PYL. The ultimate misses as Imp will be able to at least take the lantern. Box comes in. Uzi quite low as the flash comes out of Imp. Exhaust not going to work. PYL very low. Concussive blows not actually coming in.
Oh
that play was God tier. As now the Acathian surprise will come in. They do pick up Imp and he doesn't manage to get anything back. But PYL, that was stunning.
His Thresh play has been incredible, but that flay was God tier.
Yeah, something else. As Chains of Corruption coming in on the top side of the map. Looper locked down as Marin tanking this turret. The Wayless unable to secure the kill. Rek'Sai going to soar across the map towards the top side. Looper probably not going to get dove. Nice equalizer. Clears out the minion wave. No more opportunities here for LGD.
So through and through, that's an RNG win. They're able to get a kill off of it. Should have been able to get 2, of course. But the Flay did deny quite a bit. So perhaps LGD will just be happy at the fact that they didn't lose too much off of that roam from Xiaohu.
And actually, Marin uses his teleport to get back mid lane. Doesn't want to allow this turret to fall down. Wants to try and catch up just a little bit. He's only 7 CS behind, so did catch up nicely.
Yeah, it's not so much for the fact that the tower is being threatened. I think he just did it for the extra CS. He knew that Varus was going to be coming back from base, and he has a lot of free room to work with how much it would take for this Rumble to push out this lane. So he can take out CS and just roam back topside.
Yeah, well, does do so. Wave crashes at a relatively unfortunate position for Looper. As MLXG will start off this dragon. Actually tunnels his way out. As good harpoons land, Looper keeps himself at a safe distance. But at the moment, I mean, the gold, about 700 in favor of RNG, mostly because of Uzi's gigantic lead on the bottom side. Other than that, everything quite calm here on Summoner's Rift.
It looks like this dragon is going to be the focal point, of course. RNG do have the advantage right now in terms of comp. Kog'Maw still hasn't gotten the wit's end yet. And Varus is still scaling up, looking for the Muramana. But not there yet, so this dragon should be relatively free for Royal.
Well, you can see MLXG is in the area, looking to lock down the Rift Scuttler for the extra vision. Xiaohu comes around from the flank. Hail of Arrows comes in from Wayless, just trying to keep his distance. Mid lane CS, very close. Now MLXG wanders over the top of a ward. Wayless knows that he can be a little bit more safe. But the bottom lane, very different story.
Massive CS advantage coming up from Ashe. And it's only simply it's possible because Rek'Sai and LeBlanc are just constantly sitting here. It feels impossible for really Imp to do much. So he's just trying to CS, trying to farm up. And up until the point that they can really start to contest and look for the skirmishes.
Well, Dazenhook comes out. Mata makes an auto attack, but Imp is just getting chunked and chunked and chunked from these volleys.
They don't know where LeBlanc is.
Well, Arrow going to be dodged. Takes himself a lantern when he feels like it. And Imp dodges every single skill shot thrown at him. That was ridiculous.
He was trying to test himself. He could have just legitimately took the lantern. But he was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to play a mini game while I wait for this.
May as well. Wayless does Wayless things. Takes down a Raptor camp. That's exactly what he's a big fan of. We'll be able to extend that numbers lead, most definitely. Oh, a little bit unfortunate, misses that one, but we'll be able to nail the rest. We'll be able to get himself to a 3 CS advantage.
So RNG is playing a fairly controlled game. They're not taking the risks that they would usually take.
Yeah.
Usually they'd go in fairly hard on this bot lane, look for that dive, or just straight up go for the Baron, the Dragon, but...
Well, Wayless dodges the chain and then flashes to safety and clears out the minion wave. So he's going to be fine, but that's a big cooldown for the Varus.
Yeah, and so it looks like they're just trying to solidify some real solid advantage in at least a kill or this bottom lane tower before looking for that dragon.
Well, they are going to be able to get this tower just organically in the 2v2. Uzi and Mata just dominant in this lane. Wit's End will probably be picked up now by Imp. Does so. And there's a dagger as well. So decent item spike, but they're not going to be able to get back in time to grab this dragon. Mata going to help MLXG out. And it's going to be the first 2 objectives picked up by RNG as this tower falls at the same time.
And we talk about denial, right? And that was great denial from RNG. They really elongated that point. They didn't really rush to take the tower. They didn't rush to dive the tower either, because LGD played it out in a good enough way to pretty much never be there to begin with. But what that really means is that Kog'Maw couldn't farm up.
Well, there's the ultimate down, actually. Intruder just travels all the way along it, and Looper picks up the kill. Arrow even lands onto Marin on the top side, because now they're catching out Wayless. The flash knockup comes in, but he takes a Lantern, gets to PYL, and gets to safety. Intruder, of course, not so lucky as Imp getting some spare time on the bot side.
That could have been disastrous for LGD. They do end up losing that kill, of course, but perhaps they can save this tower now that Wayless is still alive.
Well, MLXG looking for the dive. The hook lands onto Xiao, who has to flash out of the way, though, does PYL, and now RNG with perfect position on this outer turret in the mid lane. Good arrow. Xiao taking some poke. The tower falls. Hook doesn't land. And LGD just need to take care of their structures. They're falling like dominoes.
If Kog'Maw had rotated, perhaps they could have protected that tower. They do indeed decide to keep Kog'Maw bot, shove out that wave completely, bounce that wave onto the turret, and just give him the CS necessary.
Well, the rest of the lane's very even. The jungle actually, Intruder, of course, ahead by a small margin. Farming out nicely, but Uzi makes his way back down towards the bottom side. Where does Imp go? As he heads back home, see if it's Berserker's Greaves or wants to get a Zeal.
This is a really worrying point for LGD. RNG, flashback to game 1. They were able to take that mid tower and then completely zone LGD away from their jungle farm. Yeah. And of course, when LGD looked to contest, they were honestly in a position to take every fight from there on forward. So now RNG slowly shoving up this wave, building up that wave entirely. You have to worry about what they're going to do to him, or the next objective on their mind, because they're really putting the stranglehold on Imp right now.
They certainly are. Zuzi will at least throw this wave towards him. See whether Imp decides to try and freeze that one up. But it's going to be difficult to do so as Xiao and Mata, so much pressure now on this side of the map. And even the inner turret doesn't feel safe as Wayless just trying to look for these members of RNG. And he's a sitting duck without the rest of his team around. Shadow Dash finds an auto attack there from Marin onto Looper.
That's just the product of losing that mid lane tower. Mid lane tower, the outer, is so important, really, because once you lose that, you lose both your jungles just like that.
Well, outer turret now on the top side of the map looks to be the focus for RNG. Uzi's moving up, but they've already got so much damage here, and Looper going to help lock that one down. Rift Herald now started right on top of that Rift Scuttler vision.
Yeah.
And that is 3 turrets to none now in favor of RNG. The map is just exploding in front of LGD's eyes, and they can't do anything about it by the looks of things. Rift Herald does fall down. We'll see who picks that one up, whether it's going to go to Looper. And it is.
You can see LGD's concept, what they're trying to do here. Oh my god.
That's another phenomenal hook coming out from PYL. Arrow soars through. Imp is going to get hit by it, and the turret's actually going to throw down an auto attack as well, but Intruder is here for the flank, able to help save him.
But yeah, you can really see what LGD is trying to do. They're giving up the Rift Herald and a lot of topside pressure simply for that Kog'Maw CS. They really want to be able to look for those fights, those skirmishes, and it all comes back to when Kog'Maw is strong.
Well, Uzi now shoving this wave down the mid lane. There's Arrow starting to do a fair bit of work. I believe Wayless is looking for a whole bunch of different items at once. Ghostblade, as well as more of Malmortius, as well as his Manamune. So really, not going to hit one of those spikes for a little while.
All he really needs is the Ghostblade and just the tier, the Muramana to stack up.
Yeah.
Those two items would mean so much for him in the oncoming team fights that they would look to push for. But if the Hurricane comes down for Imp, that's all they really want or need to just push the go button.
Yeah, Imp, of course, looking for that earlier power spike. That extra AoE damage going to be very important, especially when he wants to be shoving these waves through, picking up the CS. Wayless says that, yes, every Raptor camp, it does belong to me. Intruder, still learning this one by the looks.
But what do? If you're an LGD fan, tell me. Because because at this moment, you're going up against the Braum. You gave away the Braum. You're going up against Xiaohu's LeBlanc. Now, Xiaohu, at this point, he's going to look to just constantly pressure Imp in, right? So never really giving LGD an opportunity to fight. Now, if you're Intruder, you can't take that camp. That's not your side of the jungle.
Well, dodges 2 ultimates, gets exhausted, and they're still looking for this dive. The ultimate comes out from Marin, but the equalizer is going to help lock that one down. Uzi grabs the kill credit as now Marin realizes that, oh my goodness.
Marin, where are you?
This is going to be very difficult, as he will have the Shadow Dash. The rest of RNG are moving over. Now looking to see whether he can grab Uzi, but he just kites this one out. Concussive Blows is going to lock it up, and Looper picks up the kill with the Flame Spitter. LGD lose 2 pretty quickly.
Bit of a replay now. From the very start, Intruder, you can't be taking that camp, especially since you've lost so much. Wait for the wave pressure before you do that, and Marin, stop going out that far without vision.
Well, this Baron already down to below half health. So much damage from RNG. As MLXG is going to have the smite, LGD do not, and it is going to be locked in. Good Chains of Corruption, but the flash has to be used now by PYL. Decent snares. RNG take the Baron and go home, and we've seen this has been a bit of a trend. The early Baron team seems to have so much added control, and RNG already did.
Yeah, and they can't respond whatsoever. They're just unable to take a tower or even much chip damage on it. Because at every opportunity, the back time is that Rek'Sai seems to just always get back on the map. And the Looper just coming back for this wave.
Yeah, just teleports in, picks that one up. Zonya's now complete. Also done there for Xiaohu as well. And teamfight prowess there for RNG. Uzi, Essence Reaver completed. Almost has his QSS or Hex Drinker. Probably QSS. Get himself out of a chain of corruption as the arrow flies through. Lands onto Wayless. As Xiaohu looks to try and delete him, but can't get enough damage. Good shield.
That's enough damage to shove him away. He has no right to be on that tower now. That is a free tower for RNG, or a free fight. You have to back away.
Decent poke damage coming in from the piercing arrows, but you're right. LGD do back away. Wayless with the 20% CDR can at least throw these out a lot. But it's just not feeling like LGD have the answers to RNG's pressure.
Yeah, and that's another mid tower. These mid towers dropping means so much more than these side towers, because once you take that mid tower down, you are now relegating them to this base. They can never walk out. They can never look to contest any of these side towers. Whenever you get pushed in once, then it just simply isn't your place to be. That's not your home anymore.
Yep, your jungle now belongs to them.
Yep.
MLXG able to lock that one down with a lot of extra vision as well, given his Sightstone. And this Mountain Drake now looking to be taken by RNG for Dragon number 2 to augment the Ocean that they already picked up. Next one's going to be another Ocean Drake. And 7,000 gold. A little bit more now the lead for RNG moving into 23 minutes.
Yeah, that denial game is really taking a hold on Imp. It's taking so long for him to just get his Hurricane. And even when he gets that Hurricane, it doesn't mean as much because so many items are just being completed here by RNG.
Yeah. This feels stronger across the board as the Hurricane now is done, you're right. There's at least a Manamune done by Wayless. Can now stack it with auto attacks, which is good too. Varus, of course, struggles to get that one fully stacked up as effectively, but wants it mostly for the mana pool.
If there's ever a time for LGD to pick a fight, it would have to be now because they're simply getting farther and farther behind. And Rek'Sai is still waiting on his Randuin's build. If once he builds Randuin at this point in the game, it should be lights out. Just kidding. Finish that build.
Oh, no.
Goodbye.
It got so dark.
I just did not expect that. Well, now we're in a real miracle moment for LGD if they can somehow get some picks off this.
Well, we haven't had a team fight yet.
Yeah.
Really. It's
But
just
that's-
been picks from RNG and playing the map better. And that laning phase just playing out so well for the team.
It's a snowballing factor. They would never really need to team fight. And LGD is respecting their fights whenever they have the... Oh, wait a minute. Here we go.
Well, in they go, yeah. Arrow is tanked up by Intruder. LGD get a few of the ultimates out of this team as POL gets chunked. Imp is still very healthy. Equalizer on top of the Thresh.
Oh,
Winter's Bite comes
dead.
down. Xiaohu picks up the kill with a cheeky Q. And that is the pick potential of this team.
That is non-committal through and through. RNG right now, they don't need to fight. They're just legitimately winning based off their pushes. They shove mid. Xiaohu's shove. Oh, here we go.
The flash. They're looking for the engage now. Chains of Corruption did do some work as the ultimate came down from Mata and was doing really, really well. Wayless there as well was kiting out of the back line, but Intruder's going to die. The turret's going to die as well off your screen. Really good Unbreakable. Saves Looper from the piercing arrow as well. Mata being the hero that Looper needed. And that is 3 dead for nothing. RNG just playing out of their minds this game. 10,000 gold in the lead.
Yeah, we really wanted RNG to just clean up their game. And this is as clean as you can get.
Yeah.
LGD was able to respect them. They played smart based off of their disadvantages. But those disadvantages kept snowballing. You lose control of mid, you lose control of bot. You lose control of bot, you lose way more control of your jungle. It just snowballed from there on out. LGD could never look to take fights, and so they really just preyed on those item advantage. Well, just like the item spikes, really zoned in on that, but they could never really get to that point. Because once they're there, RNG is far too ahead.
Yeah. Well, MLXG takes himself a tunnel out, and then another one back in. Arrow lands onto Wayless. Uses the QSS, gets himself out of it. Actually, no, it's the Mikhails that came in. So Chains of Corruption come through. Xiaohu now going to take a lot of damage from Imp, who's actually cutting this one out nicely. But the equalizer, my God. Fantastic position. Doesn't get a kill, but good disengage. Felt like it saved Xiaohu.
Yeah, and so LGD, they aren't dropping, they aren't dying off of this, but at some point, it doesn't really even matter. You're never getting your jungle camps. You're never getting these waves that are coming at you. So they just aren't getting gold on the map. The only gold they know is just the passive one that you just get every second that just ticks by.
Well, now RNG do have to break the base.
And Marin, okay, well, he's okay. Oh, Marin.
Okay for now. Finds a pink ward. Realizes that he can't kill it. He's just got to run the heck away. And Uzi throws out an arrow, finds POL, actually moves into it, sacrificing himself, doesn't want an Intruder to get picked. The Thresh, such a big deal in these fights, and will have to sit in the death chamber for a few seconds.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if that was by choice, but it feels like at this point, anyone who gets hit by that arrow will die because of the follow-up from Braum and the follow-up from the rest of the team.
There's Looper having a look at the pink ward. Can't see it through the trees at the moment, and is going to head back to base. Baron now up in 24 seconds, which is why RNG are looking to stock their item sacks.
Yeah, they're playing this game point by point. Really, it looks clean, but you give LGD one 5v5 team fight, yeah, then you'd be a little bit scared. But at this point in time, it feels like a bit of a fantasy. I'm not too sure. I'm not reasonably convinced here.
It is looking really dangerous for this side. I mean, Wayless does now have his Lord Dominic's regard.
Here we go.
His Intruder, yeah, he's going to get hit by the arrow. The ultimate comes out from Marin, but he can't even make his way into the fight. Chains of Corruption gets the stuns on everyone, but when there's no follow-up, it doesn't seem to matter. And RNG just moves straight to the Baron with exactly the pick that they wanted.
Yeah, it was really intelligently played. They were just behind the bush that LGD checked, so they got the pick on Intruder, and now they're going straight towards Baron.
Yeah, and this Baron is going to melt as well. Already down to half health. RNG not going to be contested. The backs are now coming in from LGD to try and set up the bunker that they'll have to convert their base into. Imp almost has his Ginsus. But, I mean, that is a Mercurial Scimitar completed now for the 4-0-2 Uzi. His Ashe has always been impressive This game is no exception.
It feels like a bit of like a classroom. LGD is now present, being taught proper denial. And just, quite honestly, the value of wave clear and priority. You can't just go ahead and pray for the late game. You have to work for it.
Yeah.
And they just, doesn't matter how much work they put into it, they have to constantly look to give away creep after creep, camp
Baron
after camp.
Baron.
Yeah, Baron after Baron. You can't hope for that. It's 28 minutes into the game, and we're 10K gold in a deficit for LGD.
Yeah, and RNG also just look like they have all of the answers. It's not like these are coin flip moments. This is RNG organically winning this game, feeling like they can do anything that they want. Marin now going to burn down as Lupa throws the flame spitter on him, but still ahead in farm, doing well. But I mean, that is about all the praise that we can sing for this LGD roster, because everything else is just not working. Uzi's arrows have been on point. You said they've just been getting pick after pick. Yep. And look at the amount of space that they're able to gain for themselves. This tower just melts. Chains of Corruption come in, but Uzi doesn't get stunned from that one. Haven't taken the inhibitor just yet, as the poke damage from LGD is a big deal.
We talk about space for 80 carries. Imp couldn't even walk up to help save the tower. He couldn't even auto one person. Xiaohu is far too ahead.
Oh, nice hook from PYL. Flays him out of the distortion, but he uses the Mimic. Intruder goes in. Nice Zhonya's.
This is the team
as
fight
RNG looking for it. PYL tanks up the arrow. Mata gets hit by the hook as Imp. Decent position now over the side. Glacial Fissure comes down. Uzi takes down PYL as Mata is so incredibly low. Good knockup from MLXG, and Imp is going to get obliterated. 3 dead as the Acathian surprise goes off, and he can't find Xiaohu. The inhibitor's now going to follow an RNG, a dominant Game 3 performance.
That was the best fight LGD could have hoped for, but they are simply far too behind.
Just unable to get it done. Nexus turret's now going to fall down. MLXG doesn't even die as he was tanking up that turret. Marin desperately holding on as Lupa might be in trouble. Wayless gets the shutdown. Marin now going to get collapsed on. Another Chains of Corruption come in, but the Nexus turret falls down. Now the Nexus, the last thing standing between RNG and a #1 finish in their group, and they're going to take it.
There goes the game, and hope seems to be falling for LGD as all eyes are on to the next set.
Exactly right. LGD, it was a fantastic performance Game 2, but RNG looking to put the first nail in that LGD coffin. And of course, the fantastic thing is they've managed to now solidify that #1 spot. Means that WE will now only be capable of second, and RNG will be given that instant berth into the semi-final playoff position.
That's true. And not only just for the playoff berth, or at least first place, but that was really, really important for RNG. They really needed to win that game in that style to prove to everybody, and prove to themselves that they can do it.
And I love that you mentioned in that style as well, because RNG were oppressive. They got standard lanes for the very first time in that series. We've seen them go for that in their games that they're able to win so commandingly, and they just played to their win conditions. They played, honestly, flawless tactical League of Legends in these micro interactions that they were having in their lanes.
Exactly. So they knew what draft they were going into. And now I did favor standard lanes for LGD, but honestly, if you pick that composition, if you go for standard, or if you even go for the lane swap, you are at a disadvantage and you need to buy time for yourself. They didn't have that time for themselves. And so the game just went for RNG.
Yeah, and look, I felt like they had to buy time, but they also had to buy space for themselves at the same time. I mean, they didn't want to break apart the map, which is why we saw those standard lanes, but it didn't really matter. RNG just brute force on the bottom side of the map, force LGD underneath their turret from the very beginning, 20 CS for Imp to the 60 of Uzi, and it felt like the rest was history.
Yeah, and that always comes back to what RNG is best at, right? Now, they were kind of weak, and they were kind of losing their reputation, how well they looked to deny teams and how they kind of strangled them. Now, they really cleaned it up in this game. They really cleaned it up in this set specifically, because once they had their leads, they would never pick for those fights. They would never go for those full 5v5 team fights until it really felt like, I guess when they got that 10K lead.
Yeah, exactly right. And we need to have a look at individuals here as well as far as performances in this series. And Uzi played phenomenally. Almost 100% kill contribution in game number 1. Game number 2 did the very best that he possibly could, but honestly, things were falling apart around him. And then his Ash pick that was banned in game number 1, starting up every single fight. Every arrow that landed was a kill.
Yep.
I didn't see many of them miss.
Yeah.
LGD just didn't feel like they had a way in.
Exactly. And it really felt like RNG had a Malzahar. It felt like that because Uzi was getting every ulti. Every Ash arrow that was being thrown was hitting.
Yeah.
And it was causing a lot. It was instant pick. There were instant kills off of it. So as you said, his play was really instrumental.
It most certainly was. And for engage as well, which is not something that we see from a lot of these AD carries, being able to get those arrows in the right positions to start things off incredibly effectively. So Uzi, phenomenal performance. But we need to go back to LGD and ask the question of, I mean, what was that last draft? Because it felt like they were, once again, being a little bit greedy. I mean, how are you supposed to play against one of the best laning teams if you don't have lanes that can win? So we are going to have a look at the MVP. And it is going to be Uzi.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of them are just going to be based off of his Ash arrows. Now, sure, Varus did have cleanse, but every single time Varus cleanse was off cooldown, was up, he immediately had to use it. It was off cooldown because his Ash ultis were instrumental. Every single time he got a pick, it meant something. And so every time LGD tried to push forward, they had to immediately push back. And later on in the game, he even denied the only opportunity and hope for this team, for LGD to make an engage, because when Hecarim ulted in, he just Ash arrowed him.
Yeah, or just walk to the side. His positioning was fantastic. These micro movements that he was having in these team fights, always avoiding the potential engages, because we never really saw Marin and Intruder manage to get to this Ash at any stage of the game. Intruder couldn't focus that bottom side as well, just because they were so far ahead. The danger was that LGD would just die while he instigated the 3v2.
Yeah, and so of course, if you have these shoving lanes on RNG side, then you give a lot of opportunity for Ash to roam out and look for those picks, or even just stay in those in her own lane, which she did. Uzi was doing an incredibly good job at just at denying Kog'Maw from ever shoving in, and so every opportunity he had, LeBlanc went down bot, and he looked for those picks, and either Kog'Maw had to walk away or die.
Yeah, and what's the answer to this? I mean, the Nas slipped through the champion select. Maybe was that an option for Marin there? Did they tunnel too heavily onto the Hecarim Shen? Did they need another threat?
It just depended on what LGD's identity and what they wanted to do. Now, it came back to the fact that if you're going to be going for Kog'Maw, if you're going to be going for Twitch, right, then you need wave clear and you need actual lane pressure elsewhere.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to pick that lane pressure, if your mid lane's going to get pressured, if your bottom lane's going to get pressured, then you need to have pressure from your jungle. But then they had Hecarim constantly, so they can never look to fight. They're always looking to play backwards. Hecarim's looking to farm. Your mid laner's looking to constantly
be scared.
Have to be scared from Rek'Sai and LeBlanc or whoever that really is coming into this game. Lissandra was a big factor in the last game. Even though Lissandra lost, it was honestly based to the fact that they disrespected Corki in that game.
Yeah.
So the drafts that they were picking, sure, mid lane had pressure, but that was artificial pressure. It was pressure based off the matchup rather than the fact that the composition and how Wheeless played in a 2v1 situation or a 2v2 situation.
Yeah. It's a little bit dangerous here for LGD moving forward. Hopefully they can sort of tee up these drafts, because honestly it felt like they didn't have a bridge. They didn't have a way to get over the first river, which was the early game. Because honestly, if you can't get past that point, RNG are the perfect team to suffocate you. MLXG, all over your jungle. Denying Intruder who wants to farm. Well, you can't farm if there's no minions there. And honestly, it just felt like denial from minute 1 for RNG, and honestly, a sad game for LGD from the outset.
Yeah, and it's sad mostly just because now they're back on the bench. They have to go back, right? Think about what went wrong in that game.
Yeah.
But immediately look to see how it plays into the standings. Because now it really comes back to the fact that Vici's watching that game. Vici watched that set. They now know that, sure, they don't have to face you again, but they don't even have to. Now they have to go up against that OMG.
Yeah.
And sure, OMG looked good against RNG, but that was most because RNG made awful errors in that set. And they cleaned it up now, but OMG is still OMG. They're the last place in their league.
This should be the easiest game for Vici to win as they move out of the regular season. Of course, they've got to face WE moving on after that.
Yeah.
And Vici will be very, very happy because, of course, yes, RNG able to take down LGD, but they were always having to be one win behind LGD in order for anything to happen. Now, Vici, in order for LGD to make it into playoffs, Vici have to lose both of their sets.
Yeah.
And they have the easiest one first, which will lock down their place in the playoffs. As we have a look at these highlights, Marin, fantastic first blood to start things off. A little bit of an unfortunate dive. Yeah, and honestly, it was this lane that was the problem.
This was a major focus. Now, sure, LeBlanc wasn't able to get a double kill because of this amazing flay, but it doesn't matter. The kills don't matter. What matters is the pressure, and especially if Kog'Maw is going farther and farther behind, then that's a win for them.
And Uzi's backstep away from the Shadow Dash there out of Marin. And this was our first real team fight in the game, where RNG, honestly, so far ahead, just rolled over the top.
And they only picked the fight because Thresh was down, and this was the great opportunity for our LGD. They got a lot of chunk off of LeBlanc, but it does not matter, especially if you are 10, 12K behind. You're just simply going to get wiped out. And now, of course, Imp was picked out in that one situation. And so that's just the story of the game, really.
Yeah.
And so now LGD, of course, as I was saying, they have to go back, look towards Vici, and Vici just have to win that one game.
Yeah, there's just one game for Vici to win, and it's now time for us to move there. We are going to have a short break. When we get back, Vici look to solidify their playoff dreams by taking down OMG. Don't go anywhere.